Hello and welcome to the Amplifying Scientific Innovation video podcast, very special episode where your host, me, Dr. Sophia Ononye-Onyia. I'm going to be sharing more from our newest book, Amplifying Scientific Innovation, from podcast to apprenticeship. And today, for the first time ever, I'm actually sharing an unboxing video. I just received the proofs on Amazon today, and I'm excited to share it with everybody. So the name of the book is Amplifying Scientific Innovation from Podcast to Apprenticeship. Available on Amazon in paperback, in hardcover, as an ebook, and also this is actually super exciting. On Audible, I also recorded an audiobook version, and it's because accessibility is really important. It's always been central to the Amplifying Scientific Innovation platform. So whether you prefer to hold a physical book, prefer to listen to it, or to read it digitally, or just follow the video series on YouTube, the goal remains the same: to make knowledge more accessible, useful, and human. For this book, for me, was all about accessibility. The underlying question is, what happens to knowledge? What do you do to knowledge after you've acquired it? What do you do with it? So a little bit of a back history here. So 6 years ago, I launched Amplifying Scientific Innovation at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic when I lived in Brooklyn, New York. Today, I live in Irvine, California, and obviously the times are different, but I'm holding the newest evolution of the book and my work really for the past 6 years. What I appreciate about this work is that when I said this podcast, I didn't know where it would go. My mission was to make science more accessible at a time when there was a lot of doubt about the credibility of science. Do we need science? Can we trust science? Can we trust scientists? Can we trust clinicians? And I wanted to bring conversations about science advocacy, health equity, and influential leadership to the forefront, especially considering that people do not often understand sort of scientists. It was like put us in a box. You can't understand them. They're not relatable. So that was really what was going on in my mind at the time. But I think what brings me the most joy today is just knowing that 6 years later, this is not just an idea that I have in my mind. Amplifying Scientific Innovation has now grown from New York City to Orange County to become a digital storytelling platform, a paid apprenticeship program, and a workforce development model that is planning to be scaled nationwide and as well as statewide here in California. But the goal is, as I said from the onset, is to expand access to knowledge, practical skills, learning pathways, and opportunities for the next generation. After watching our apprentices learn from podcast conversations recorded this year, and even had their own special 6th anniversary podcast celebration, I just began to ask myself a deeper question. Again, what happens to knowledge after you collect it? And the podcast collected knowledge, the apprenticeship began to distribute it, and writing this book has helped me to understand the connection between the two. So you can see a little bit of the story, the New York over here, the California, that sort of journey, and the pathway from podcasting, integrating AI, and obviously building a digital storytelling platform as well as an apprenticeship program. So that's what I appreciate about this. So let's get into it a little bit more. So this book, Amplifying Scientific Innovation from Podcast to Apprenticeship, is a memoir-driven reflection on the innovator's journey and what I've learned about purpose, curiosity, reinvention, belonging, resilience, and sustaining momentum while building ideas that serve others. It is part memoir, part leadership reflection, and part innovation playbook. And I explored the journey through 5 questions that have remained remarkably consistent across my career and my life. The first question in chapter 1 is, why am I doing this? That's a crucial question. I ask my apprentices why. I also ask myself the same question, why am I doing this? And this chapter explores purpose, authenticity, and responsibility, and what it means to build work that reflects your values while also recognizing that service requires structure, boundaries, resources, and sustainability. The second part of the book, chapter 2, what inspires me, In that part of the book, I evaluate curiosity, inspiration, and momentum, drawing connections amongst books, faith, meaningful conversations, technology, unexpected opportunities, and the experiences that keep us interested enough to continue moving forward. And then in chapter 3, the question here is, am I still open to learning? That is such an important question that I've asked myself multiple times in my career. Because it's not just about being curious, but does it serve a purpose, right? So it focuses on reinvention, leadership, artificial intelligence, and lifelong learning. It reflects on career spanning cancer research, consulting, entrepreneurship, higher education, communication, strategy, podcasting, and apprenticeship development, and what it meant and still means for me to be willing to become a beginner all over again. And then chapter 4 is Who Are My People? I appreciate this chapter a lot because I actually allude to it in the dedication of the book, which, by the way, I'm happy to sort of read here. To my people, past, present, and future, amplifying scientific innovation exists today because you saw my light and supported my journey in your own unique ways. So as we'll say back in Nigeria, Dalu. What I appreciate about this chapter is, sort of we've kind of gone through the first 3 parts. We talked about why am I doing this? What inspires me? Am I still open to learning? And then in chapter 4 is who are my people? Innovation does not happen in silos, right? It doesn't happen in a vacuum. We need each other for innovation to truly be impactful. So that's what I appreciated about this chapter. And having lived everywhere, I've lived in Ohio, Connecticut, Maine, New York, New Jersey. I spent a summer in Texas. I lived in San Diego for a few months. I now live in Irvine. I've lived everywhere. So, and I think obviously I was also born in Nigeria and I have that as sort of my cradle. But in this chapter, I explored belonging, trust, and social capital. The mentors, the collaborators, apprentices, family members, colleagues, and friends who help shape what becomes impossible. It also examines the importance of discernment because not every room, relationship, or opportunity deserves equal access to our time and energy. Speaking of energy, chapter 5, how did I start it? I said, energy is everything. The title of that chapter is How Do I Rejuvenate? This might be my favorite chapter. I'm not supposed to have one, but I think it's important as a writer to think about, as you write a book, what was the chapter that was the most challenging? What was the chapter that forced you to sort of tell the most authentic story about yourself? And this might be that chapter for me. And it brings together energy, resilience, renewal, faith, entrepreneurship, teaching, motherhood, bodily stress, failure, survival, and self-acceptance. So it also asks what it takes to protect the person carrying the vision rather than treating exhaustion as proof of commitment. So then we have the conclusion, the mission continues because it does. Amplifying scientific innovation is something that I'm committed to, not just for a few weeks. Obviously, I've demonstrated for the past 6 years that this is something I feel quite strongly about. We have a trademark on it. We built an apprenticeship program. We have a podcast now with 80 plus episodes, over 1.2 or so million views, which is not easy for science content. Science is supposed to be boring, but is it? And so that's what I appreciate the most about the book. So as we think about the conclusion, obviously what I did was to bring those questions back again, and to reemphasize my whole point about knowledge. So knowledge must be shared, knowledge must be applied, knowledge must be amplified. So writing this book for me also challenged me to simplify my message without making the work smaller, right? Make the story more accessible without losing the depth, and then think more critically about what sustainable innovation looks like in my own life. So now I cannot deny that the process has been easy. I mean, I wrote a book from scratch. I bootstrapped this whole process, including editing, proofreading. Thank God for ChatGPT. It's been my best workhorse assistant. And I got some help from Gemini in terms of the book cover ideas and such. But really, this has been an effort where I leverage the resources that I had, and I said, hey, this is a summer that I want to do something that I can truly be proud of. And not to say that I haven't done work to be proud of in the past, but I think growth is not so much about measuring yourself from yesterday. It's about looking at where am I today, and where am I going, at least in my own opinion. So what it showed me though is that I am open to learning. Obviously, I've never recorded an audiobook before, but I said if I can do podcasting, I can find a way to record an audiobook, and we made that happen. So as I said in the beginning of chapter 5, energy is everything. I feel like I got my energy back by doing something that I'm quite proud of. And that's this book. And it's lightweight enough to fit into small bags and such. It's like about 120 pages or so. But most importantly, I couldn't have done this without the people that have obviously supported me over the years. And as we'll say in Igbo, Dalu again. And this book is for you, the students, scientists, entrepreneurs, educators, consultants, leaders, and innovators that are navigating their own paths towards growth and impact, especially when the path ahead is not yet clear. So over the next several weeks, what I'm going to do is maybe walk you more deeply into the introduction of all 5 chapters and the conclusion. Each video will include a short reading from the book, deeper reflection on that section, and a preview of what comes next.